Welcome to the November 2013 edition of Curriculum Connection. I'm Medford's Curriculum Director, Laura Lundy. Tonight we will focus in on how our high school teachers are preparing our students to be college and career ready. The ACT is not just for college-bound students anymore. In the spring of next year, 2015, all juniors will be required to take the ACT. Previous to this requirement, the ACT was an optional test taken by college-bound students as an entrance exam. Next year, the ACT will be required and will replace our current sophomore state test, the WKCE. For years, the ACT test has been a predictor of success in college. Studies have shown that if students earn an 18 on the English portion, a 22 on the math and reading portion, and a 23 on the science portion, students are more likely not to have to take remedial courses in college. In order to prepare our students for college or careers, the Medford High School has adopted a system called Aligned by Design.
Aligned by Design curriculum, basically it allows the classes to align more appropriately with each other across the curriculum, both horizontally across the disciplines where skills that are being taught in an English class can be reinforced within the content areas and vice versa. Being able to have students, teach them to make connections with their education in all areas and in all classes, as well as stretching up vertically with their expanding on their skills as the higher level that they go. They're working on interpreting higher level forms of data, higher level skills.
Rigorous curriculum, but it also gets the kids ready for college or career, which I think is extremely important that we focus. It's not just our college-bound students, it's also our students that are going on to careers right away.
It's no longer you're just teaching out of your classroom. You're not isolated like on an island anymore. You're connected with the other disciplines, whether it be English, social studies, math, science.
Although teachers of social studies, science, math, and English still teach content, they now have included the explicit teaching of skills based on the ACT skills progression to all levels, honors, general, and pull-out students.
There's a 200 level, they're earning a 13 to 15 on the ACT test, a 300, a 400, and a 500. At the 500 level, it's equivalent of 24 to 27 on the ACT. Our goal is to move them progressively through this chart from freshman to sophomore to junior and to get them at 500 to 600 levels.
What teachers are finding out is that we can no longer assume students know these skills.
When I started incorporating graphs and diagrams and charts and maps into my curriculum, and we spent a little bit of time in the first couple weeks of school reviewing them, a lot of students would say, nobody ever really showed me how to read a graph, or nobody ever showed me how to read a table like this. It makes a lot of sense. I just never understood it before. So I saw immediate gains right away, not only with the quality of the work, but also with the confidence of the lower learning student.
I used to assume that students really knew how to graph by the time they're sophomores. We practice a lot of the graphing, interpreting, and analyzing data. I think it's great because we every day we're talking about it could be just one graph or one map or one chart, and we look at how that fits right into the CRS skills. And the CRS skills, college and career readiness skills, are something that they can use the rest of their life. Of course, we're getting them ready for the ACT test, but also just to go on to college and for a career.
Students are seeing the connections as well.
We've learned these skills in the past, but not in the same way that we've done them now. Now, at the beginning of class, we know exactly what we're going to be learning and what skills we're going to be using that day.
It's really nice to have the format of the CRS skills to know, like, oh, we're learning this skill, it's going to score you that amount of points on the ACT.
You can kind of get prepared of what you're learning because it tells you right away which CRS skills you're doing, and you can kind of just get ready for it.
Beyond just learning the ACT skills, the teachers are giving students chances to apply them in unknown situations.
For me, interpretation of data is a really big one. Focusing on their ability to look at a map and understand what that map says, or looking at a graph and understanding what that graph says, even if they haven't seen that graph before, but giving them the tools to understand how that map works or how that graph works.
It's one thing I often look at the students, let's get this lab, let's go through the lab, let's get the results, and I kind of look at them and go, you really know what just happened? And this whole idea of now of let's graph and let's analyze the data has really opened my eyes. I can sit down and say, for instance, we just did a surface area to volume lab, and they can not only, they not only graph the data, but let's analyze it and let's look at what this data really means. Let's interpret it. And I'm seeing great strides just in that.
Definitely critical thinking skills. There are so many students that have a really tough time thinking for themselves, and I think that's where a lot of it comes in. I mean, just today we were working on vocabulary, and the students are so ready to go to a dictionary, dictionary.com, and I tell them, no, we're going to look at the context of how it's being used in the sentence, and we're going to take a look at the root and see if you can figure it out first. Think for yourself first before you move on to that dictionary.
Align by Design helps kids see connections between subjects. One of those skills that crosses over all subjects is writing. Starting last year, high school teachers are using the writing structure called MELCON.
So MELCON is a paragraph format: main idea, evidence, link, conclusion. And since learning it last year, we've used it in pretty much all of our classes when we have a writing assignment, and I even used it on the WKCE this year, writing my essay.
I also used it on my WKCE, and it just helps make sure that your paper is like full and you fully explain everything and get your thoughts all laid out.
Well, I've been teaching for 12 years, and probably the biggest thing I've told my students is, I need you to develop your ideas more. I need you to develop your ideas more. And I never really showed them how to do it. And that's where MELCON comes in. It makes them develop their ideas. It puts that critical thought that is never normally in writing.
So I think the students get to really see, they don't just talk about writing in writing class. We write in all the other classes as well.
I think that the writing process it seems complicated to students. They don't quite know what they're supposed to get, what they're supposed to put into it, and I think this really simplifies it for them. It gives them some guiding points. A lot of the students that like it, they actually say, oh, I don't like this, but I like it that it makes me think through what the steps are, and I know I'm guaranteed I got these points made. And I think it helps other other classes, other subjects, understand writing a little bit better and make it not so intimidating for them to teach and incorporate into their classes.
Yeah, and I think that they probably should start MELCON like sooner before freshman year, because now that we know the format, it's so much easier to like write papers and just get them done, and it's like quicker than how you think it would be. And it's usually pretty good papers.
Another foundational piece of Align by Design is the way students are placed into courses. All core courses have at least 2 levels, general or honors. At first look, this practice may resemble tracking. Tracking didn't work decades ago because students were labeled as capable or not capable. And once a student was placed in a group, they stayed there. In the Align by Design philosophy, the purpose of grouping students is different. We believe that all kids can learn. We believe that all kids can take an honors or an AP course if they are explicitly taught the skills they need to know to be successful. Therefore, the course content between the classes is extremely similar.
Yeah, the whole goal is to make sure that we could have them move at different levels. They're getting the same common core discipline. One example might be if we're talking about the cell, all students are learning about the different organelles of the cell. Maybe in honors we take it a step further, we do some different labs. We analyze maybe at a higher level with data on the CRS skill.
With the AP Human Geography class, we have to cover everything in a given chapter. With the Human Geography, the regular one, I have a little bit more freedom where if I see a part of that subject, for example, we got into identity and race, like the identity aspect really seemed to grab the kids, so I went deeper into there.
The pullout classes generally start a little bit lower of a skill level. For example, I know that the freshman incoming Human Geography class started at around 200 level skills. I need to start around 100 level skills where I'm teaching my students to be able to read a map, to be able to read basic facts and understand what they are before they can understand how to interpret the data that is on them.
In the area of math, Medford is still in the planning stages. After analyzing Medford's ACT data last year, The Medford High School math team adopted one part of Align by Design by implementing ACT skills tests on a weekly basis.
So they're geared to raise ACTs, as well as it's holding students accountable for previous math learned in previous years. Math is a discipline of building from one year to the next, and if they don't retain what they had last year, that makes the next year even that much harder. And if they remain just bits and pieces here, we see the threshold of many students come up to about Algebra 2 because they're not retaining certain skills. And so we're randomly throwing in previously learned knowledge to keep things fresh in their mind for the ACT, for future building blocks, so that they have success. And if they don't have success on their first skill check, they can retake that skill check as many times as they want. We as teachers are available to them before school, after school, in the math lab, during lunch, during our preps. We all open it up for them. And all they need to do is come in and we will sit down with every one of them and work through each problem.
One reason for implementing skills testing was the realization that our students were not retaining skills taught in earlier grades.
We looked at some of our ACT data and said even our kids that had up to Algebra 2 were not really scoring that great. Even our pre-calc kids were not scoring what we thought they should score. So we think that we can do something in our structure to help them do that, and that's what Align by Design would be in terms of course structure.
Last week, the entire math team attended an Align by Design workshop and plans to make further changes to their curriculums, starting with algebra next year.
We went to the Align by Design conference, which in its core really isn't a new idea. The idea that really they're going to teach all different types of math in 1 year. Some algebra, some geometry, some statistics in 1 year instead of splitting like algebra, geometry. But what is different about Align by Design is it's very much just the ACT skills. It's the idea that we're preparing these kids for the state test, which is going to be the ACT, for college entrance. The first year they do the easier and they focus on the next, and then they kind of show them the next level, and then the next year is another SWAT where they go back and review and then focus on the next skill and keep going. And the idea then is by year 3 or 4, all of our students will have been able to see enough and practice enough skills to score in the low 20s theoretically on the ACT, which would be fantastic if all of our kids could do that. Part of Align by Design is asking like different levels of questions, whether it's a level 4, level 3, level 2, in terms of difficulty, and the idea that a level 3 question makes them combine 2 skills and use it and read and decide what skills they need to apply. And that's really what the ACT test is like. You just need to do more of our assessments that look like that. It's also, they're more random. It's not, here's 10 problems, all similar, kind of like what we did in Chapter 2, Section 3. It is 60 questions on the ACT that are all over the place. And we just don't force our kids to think that way a lot, and that's what we really want to do to help them.
No one can predict what new careers tomorrow will bring, which is why it is so important to teach our students to think critically and to make connections on their own. And with everything, some students like the challenge and others don't.
You definitely still fight the kid that'll just say, well, I'm living with a 6 out of 10 and whatever, but I think it's so neat to see kids who get a 7 or an 8 and still big and say, can I do another one, can I do another one, and want to try again and do more. I think they've gotten the idea then that we're here to help them. We're giving them an opportunity to do it. Well, we will reteach anything that we need to, and they love the opportunity to get a better score. And as a teacher, I love that the kid's begging to do math. I mean, that's the point. That's what we're here for. And if we can switch the culture from apathy to I want more, or I need help with this, what is this? You know, that's really what we want.
The Align by Design system gives us a structure to prepare our students for the known and the unknown. We know skills such as interpreting, analyzing data, and reading and writing will be on the ACT test. We know that if our students are able to do these things well today, they will be better prepared for the unknown of tomorrow. For Curriculum Connection, I'm Laura Lundy.